Alrighty, here we go with the Kingdom of Israel. Remember, we glued in notes that have the spaces for you to fill in as you follow along into your notebook. So make sure you are open to that. Pause for a second if you need to open to that so that you are not falling behind right away. Alrighty, here we go with our Kingdom of Israel. As we saw the last couple days, you were just shown either at the start of class or yesterday these posters about our first three kings and what's happening early on after the 12 tribes have taken over Israel. So here we go. The Kingdom of Israel is going to be kind of unique because in two ways. First, they're going to trade with their neighboring areas, so their neighbors, the next door kingdoms, if you will. However, they're not going to adopt the culture or beliefs of their neighbors. So they are Jewish people. They are known as the Hebrews. They worship our God and not the gods and other religions and other cultures or languages of the people around them. So they're kind of outsiders in this region. Because of that, they are going to become threatened by some of their neighboring kingdoms because they are different. As we look through a lot of history, that is a common theme for war. When I am afraid of you because you're different, I go to war with you. It's a pretty common theme, unfortunately. We still kind of see it today. People have different beliefs. People will fight because of different beliefs. It's human. Pause here if you need to finish getting anything down, but I'm moving on. So we're going to see our Philistines be the first to attack Israel as a kingdom, and that's going to happen around 1029 BCE. Remember, BCE, it's the same thing. Technically, BCE is politically correct, so it's before Common Era. Other people still say before Christ, and either one's fine. And when the Philistines invade Israel, they will actually be successful in taking some of the land from Israel. So, in order to fight them and defend themselves, Israel's going to decide to unite under one king in order to have a more unified kingdom. If you remember back to last week when we talked about the judges, Israel did not have one leader. They had like a council of judges who made choices, ruled on law. They were basically the kings. So, here they're going to make a decision to appoint one king to rule them all. Pause it here if you're still writing. I want to move on. The Kingdom of Israel, here's a map for you. So the green is showing you basically what was ruled by the Kingdom of Israel in this time period. Here to the west, you see the Philistia. That is the Philistines. You see they're in Gaza. Today, this is land that Israel and the Palestinians kind of fight over. And then, of course, Phoenicia up here, which is who's going to go on to influence the Greeks with the first alphabet. So our first king and our second king is going to be Saul and David. And Saul is going to be our first king. Again, this is down in your notes you got given to you already. So make sure you're under Saul. And Saul is going to be chosen to become the first king of Israel. He's actually going to be more or less voted by a group of like elders, some of those judges. And the main reason he will be appointed is he is a very respected military leader in this time period. And by 1020 BCE, Saul is going to become king. You may have noticed already that these dates are getting smaller and smaller. And what that means, Christ is a turning point in history. And as we get older in time, like back in Egypt, the numbers are larger. So for example, this is 1020 years before Jesus is born. And you're going to notice the number keeps getting smaller as we are getting closer to Christ. And Saul is going to lead the Israelites to victory, and he will fight back the Palestinians. Pause it here if you haven't written that yet. Here is a painting and a sculpture of what people envision Saul looked like, based just off descriptions and historical writings and all of that. So he was a warrior king, and that's why they painted him with armor and a spear. David, who I like to call David, but it's David. But if you lived in Israel today, they'd probably say David. David is going to be named Saul's successor after his death. So again, that group of judges is going to appoint a new king when Saul dies, and David would be who is appointed. David's going to basically help wrap up the war with the Philistines and completely remove them from Israel. They are no longer a threat. Notice it is now 1000 BCE, so it's been 20 years since Saul was king. So Saul ruled for a little bit about 20 years, maybe a little less. And David is going to become king, and when he becomes king, he's going to make new laws. He's going to establish a new line of kings to succeed him, to follow him. And actually his son Solomon would be the next king of Israel after David. Pause it here if you're writing, but I'm going to keep moving on. Here we go. Picture. Here is a painting of David. And again, this painting from the olden times, in the late Middle Ages, the medieval times with castles and knights and all that, is when a lot of these type of paintings are created. And that was a big era of religious zealotry, if you will, which is people were very, very religious and proud of it. Artists painted things, and David here is a huge religious icon in the Old Testament. So this is him literally staring up to the heavens. On to Solomon. David's going to die, as you saw there. He just shattered. He dies. Oh, everyone dies. And Solomon will become king in 962 BCE. As you can notice, 38 years later after David pushed out the Philistines and basically became king, which tells you he ruled for a long time and he was popular. But Solomon, his son, David's son, would become or help rule Israel to become an even powerful kingdom. So they're going to grow, they're going to be stronger, they're going to have a better military. And the biggest accomplishment of Solomon is he's going to build the first great temple of Jerusalem. Great temple where all the Jewish people could go to worship God. So it's basically like a huge cathedral. And after the threats of invasion kind of went away, Israel's going to start becoming a little bit more and more divided, if you will, politically. If you look at the U.S. today, politically we're a bit divided. So the same thing kind of happens with all civilizations. Pause it here if you're still writing. And here is a drawing of Solomon of about what he probably looked like, depending on the era and the clothing. Yeah, he's probably pretty close. Tomorrow we are gonna start going over posters looking at the division of the kingdom of Israel. This will be the next king who we will talk about. He will be the grandson of David, and under his rule he not so much was a bad king, but he probably wouldn't be known as the greatest of great kings because he wasn't so popular. And because of that lack of popularity, the kingdom of Israel is going to divide. Spoilers, remember, united we stand, divided we fall. Well, they're going to divide, so they may fall. We will catch that tomorrow, and we will see what's up with that. Don't forget to answer the 321 exit ticket that is posted with these assignment. That is one thing you have to finish for homework. Also, make sure you have finished your journal question and you record a Flipgrid of you reading your answer. Have a great day. I will catch you tomorrow where we will present some of these in class, and I'll give you notes to finish just like this. Have a great day. Bye.